Welcome back to Project Aviate. Today we're diving into one of the greatest what-if stories in aviation history, the Boeing 2707. This was the American dream of building a supersonic transport that wouldn't just match Concorde but surpass it in every possible way. Imagine a jet bigger, faster, and more luxurious than anything the skies had ever seen. That's the story of the Boeing 2707 and how it could have beaten Concorde if history had taken a different turn. Look at this stunning vision from the 1960s. The Boeing 2707 was designed to be sleek, futuristic, and powerful, a machine that captured the imagination of an entire generation. While Concorde was revolutionary in its own right, the 2707 promised something on a whole new scale, a delta-wing supersonic giant that would cruise at Mach 3, almost 3 times the speed of sound, and carry nearly 300 passengers. Concorde, by comparison, carried just 100. Here we see them side by side on the runway. Concorde looks elegant and sharp, but the 2707 dwarfs it with its sheer size and ambition. This wasn't just an airplane, it was a statement. The United States wanted to prove it could dominate the skies of tomorrow, and Boeing was tasked with building the machine to do it. These early blueprints show just how bold the engineers were. Every line, every angle was drawn with speed in mind. The 2707 wasn't just about crossing the Atlantic quickly, it was about rewriting the entire book of air travel. Imagine boarding a supersonic jetliner that could take you from New York to Tokyo in just under 3 hours. That was the promise of Boeing's masterpiece. Now picture it soaring through the clouds at Mach 3, the engines roaring, the fuselage glowing from the heat of atmospheric friction, and a shockwave exploding in its wake. The Concorde was fast, but the Boeing 2707 would have been faster and higher, cruising at over 60,000 feet where the sky fades into space. Inside, it wasn't just speed that Boeing promised, it was luxury. Look at this imagined cabin. Wide, panoramic interiors, spacious seating, and elegance that combine 1960s style with futuristic design. Passengers wouldn't just travel supersonically. They would feel like they were stepping into the future of aviation itself. The boarding process would have felt like entering a time machine, one that transported you not only across continents but into a vision of tomorrow. The cockpit tells its own story. Complex, futuristic avionics surrounded by glowing instruments and controls. This was not just an airplane, it was a spaceship in disguise. Pilots would have sat at the controls of the fastest commercial aircraft ever built, steering a machine capable of cruising at speeds rivaling fighter jets. Look again at this scene, the Concorde and the Boeing 2707 flying side by side above the Atlantic. Both beautiful, both advanced, but one undeniably more ambitious. The 2707 would have carried 3 times the passengers at higher speeds with greater range. It was the ultimate flex of American engineering. Here's the defining moment, breaking the sound barrier. The 2707 was designed for Mach 3, and at that speed the shockwaves would have been visible, the very air itself exploding around the jet. It would have been a sight unlike anything passengers had ever experienced, the kind of spectacle that turned every flight into an event. The dream didn't just exist in engineering drawings, it was splashed across magazines and posters, hailed as the next leap in aviation. The future of flight, the headlines read. These bold, colorful advertisements promised the public that by the 1970s, supersonic travel would be the norm and the Boeing 2707 would lead the way. Imagine the scene at airports. Concorde parked on the tarmac, sleek but small, while the 2707 took off with a roar, lifting nearly 3 times the passengers into the sky. The spectacle would have redefined air travel forever. Airlines dreamed of packing their schedules with supersonic flights that could shrink the globe like never before. Take a look inside with this cutaway. Rows of passengers enjoying spacious cabins, luxury lounges, and panoramic windows. Boeing didn't want to just beat Concorde, it wanted to make Concorde look outdated. The 2707 would have been the fastest hotel in the sky, a flying palace at 3 times the speed of sound. The excitement was real. Engineers unveiled models at airshows, crowds gathered to witness the future, and politicians hailed it as a symbol of American leadership. Billions of dollars were invested, and for a moment the dream seemed unstoppable. Picture it soaring above the clouds at supersonic speed, contrails glowing against the deep blue sky. The 2707 was meant to be not just an aircraft but an icon, the star of a new golden age of aviation. The world waited for Boeing's giant to change history. Now imagine an alternate reality poster. Boeing's 2707 dominating global travel while Concorde fades into the background. Airlines competing to buy America's supersonic marvel, passengers choosing it as the ultimate way to travel. That's the world we might have lived in if the 2707 had left the drawing board. And finally, picture this. It's the year 2025 and the Boeing 2707 is still in service, streaking across the skies above futuristic cities, a sci-fi reality made true. If it had flown, it might still be with us today, modernized and upgraded, the king of the skis for generations. But of course, we know how the story really ended. Rising costs, environmental concerns, and political opposition doomed the 2707 before it could ever take flight. Concorde, smaller and less ambitious, became the only supersonic passenger jet to ever enter service. And yet, when you look at what Boeing had planned, you can't help but wonder, what if? What if the 2707 had beaten Concorde? What if the future of aviation had been faster, bigger, and bolder than anything we ever knew? That's the story of the Boeing 2707, the American supersonic dream that never flew but still inspires us today. If you enjoyed this journey into aviation's greatest what if, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because here at Project Aviate we bring the stories of the skis back to life.